Well, maybe we saw some good shows, but since I've been in rehab and won't get out till January 9th, which will be a really happy ending, we still have one Broadway show to talk about, maybe Happy Ending, which is my favorite show this season so far. Lenny, take it away.
Maybe Happy Ending by Will Aronson, who wrote the book lyrics and music, and Hugh Park, who wrote the books and lyrics. And it is directed by Tony Award winner Michael Arden. Is a musical set in Seoul, South Korea in the late 21st century. The main characters are Oliver and Claire, two obsolete helper bots. For 10 years, Oliver has been waiting for his owner, James, to return as he promised him. Oliver spends his time listening to jazz music. One day, his neighbor from down the hall, Claire, knocks on his door and asks to borrow his battery charger. Together, they go on a trip to find fireflies. As their connection deepens, they discover real human emotion. Maybe Happy Ending is a unique and original South Korean musical. It was first produced in South Korea, where it won the Korean Musical Award for Musical of the Year. It also won the Richard Rogers Award by the American Academy of Arts and Letters. Not only is it a very unique musical, but it is also very sweet, with the two lead performers, Darren Criss and Helen J. Shen, giving very endearing and connected performances.
This was just the most wonderful show I've ever seen. It just tugs at your heartstrings. And we should also mention Marcus Choi played all these different characters. He played the former owner of Oliver and all these other people. And there was a singer, because when he puts on the jazz music, we actually get to see the singer Gil Brantley, who is played by Des Duran, who's sort of this Frank Sinatra type. And the reason Oliver loves this guy so much is because the owner taught him to love this guy. I mean, that's just it. Darren Criss is just a sweet, innocent, optimistic, just loyal person. He's like Candide almost. And then you have Claire, who had a totally different experience with her owner, and how they come together and their relationship. It kind of breaks your heart, but at the same time, you're just like, oh, it kind of reminds me of the feeling I got from Primary Trust last year. I mean, there's certain things I still think about them and I'll burst into tears. Just little tiny touches that Michael Arden put in that was just so beautiful. I mean, I love this show so much. It's like my favorite thing this year. Whenever anyone asks me and recommend, because we always have to recommend something, I just immediately, maybe Happy Ending, because there's no maybe about it. This just gives me a major happy ending feeling and major happy face. I just love this to pieces, and bring tissues with you. I mean, you'll cry more than you do with the Notebook.
Happy face for me too.
So we have a very special guest with us tonight. We've got David Lefkowitz from Days Gone By. Now, I've been on his show several times. Now it's time for him to be on my show. And you'll notice his wonderful set. It's left over from his New Year's Eve show. And we're filming this before New Year's Eve. So that's why it's still there. So come along, Dave. Tell us all about what's going on with you.
Well, thank you so much, Eva. I have known Eva, my gosh, for about 3 or 4 decades. Well, at least 3 decades now. In fact, you always tell me that I was one of the people instrumental in having you become a theater critic.
You were instrumental. You're not one of the people. You're the reason I am a theater critic.
She hasn't sent Luigi after me, even though I ruined her life by making her devoted to the theater.
No, you've ruined creative people's lives because I'm mean to them sometimes.
It's part of the gig, Eva. We're part of the overall cosmos of theater. It would exist without us, but it wouldn't be the same. And I think that's kind of important. We're all part of this relationship that unless you have people critiquing what's good, what's bad, and what's in the middle, people will never have a real sense of aesthetically. It's like one thing is just as good as another, and it's not necessarily true.
Also, because things are so expensive, this way they can hear what the plot is, what the story is, and see, oh, is this something I want to spend $300 on?
Right. I mean, and it's also, since I live in Maryland now and I'm not in New York anymore, where in New York I would see 5, 6, sometimes 7 shows every week of my life. Now, when I come in, I'm making the same decisions, not necessarily based on cost, but I will look at, the 20 Broadway shows that have opened since the last time I was in New York. And now it's suddenly, well, I can't see all of them. And some of them are going to close before I ever have a chance. So this one, well, this seems really loud and obnoxious and it's not going to be my thing. This I really, really want to see, and this is in my wheelhouse. So even if it's not cost, you're making these calculations, and it helps me when I read other critics, when I read what people are saying and thinking about what's on and off Broadway.
And also what people don't realize about critics is we want to like everything that we see. We do not want to give you a bad review. We feel terrible about it, but I'm sorry. If you write garbage or you're directing garbage, we have to call it.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and the person who is writing or directing garbage this week might come up with a masterpiece next year. And then the critic is the one who can say, I don't know what they were doing last year, but this, whoa! Yeah, and they don't mind when we do that, I don't think.
Still remember, to me, I always use her as an example, is Kate Burton. When she started out, she was so terrible. She was just the worst. It's like you'd see her on stage and she'd just suck all the life out of it. And whenever I had to see her in a play, I would just start, shaking with terror. And then something happened, something snapped, and she did the best Hedda Gabler I have ever seen. And ever since then, she is just the most brilliant actress.
Sometimes it takes time. There are actors I feel exactly the same about. The only one I can think of at the moment is a guy named Bill Buell, whom I could not tolerate early in his career, and he's good. Or he's gotten good, or I've changed my taste. That can happen too. And then certainly playwrights whose work I have despised sometimes, and other times, Edward Albee, for example, and yet Three Tall Women is brilliant, right? And some of his other stuff is like Lake of Fault, So that's what we're here for.
Yeah, and it's nice when they can be surprised, when they surprise us. There's nothing better than like going to an off Broadway play, and it's brilliant, and you're like, whoa, thank goodness I'm seeing this, that no one else is going to see, and they should see it.
It's funny, I was just thinking of that today because I was going through some of the older reviews on my website, totaltheater.com, which is a compendium of theater reviews from around the world, some of them written by me, but most of them written by other people. And I came across a play I hadn't thought of in a few years called The Lights by Howard Corder. And, just not expecting anything. It was done at Lincoln Center, I think, but, or maybe it was the Atlantic Theater Company. So it wasn't off, but it was off. And I thought it was absolutely stunning and brilliant. It just came out of nowhere. I didn't think much of Boy's Life, his earlier play, and I don't know so much of what he's done since then. But it's that moment of like, oh, you go in, oh, okay, interesting play, and you come out like, that was a major work. That was a piece that, even though I haven't thought about it in a long time, I still remember very fondly as a searing piece of work.
Oh, that's cool. Anyway, let's talk about your show in Maryland called Days Gone By.
Thank you. Yes, Days Gone By. Our New Year's episode that you mentioned that we're going to be taping tomorrow night is our 973rd episode of the program.
Wow.
Right? We've been doing Days Gone By since October of 2002.
And that started in Colorado, right?
No. It started back on Long Island in 2002 on terrestrial radio. We were on WGBB on Long Island, Sunday nights at 11. It was a radio program. And we did it on GBB for almost a decade. Then my wife and I moved to Colorado. I was doing it on college radio there, and then some internet radio. And over the past 6 or 7 years, thanks to my wonderful wife's idea of like, hey, you might as well turn it into a video podcast and get it on Facebook. And we did. And so the past few years, it's not just been radio. It's literally what we're doing now. It's video Zoom. We air live every Saturday morning on my Facebook page, Dave's Gone By, with all the archives at davesgoneby.com. And if you don't mind my saying that, when I say all the archives, I mean all of them. From our very first episode, 001, all the way through, a week ago when we did our 972nd.
And you've had some incredible guests on your show, too.
You even.
Well, and you do, and you have little games that you play with people like David Short and Leslie Hoban Blake.
We also recently instituted something called Bunion Watch, which I'm so proud of. I show the world the size, shape, condition, and color of my foot bunions, as opposed to my arm bunions, I guess. But yes, this is an amazing, beautiful moment of great When David Sarnoff and other people at RCA were creating television, they must have had this deep in their minds, but it took me to create Onion Watch. Um, but we also have our Colorado Limerick of the Damned, where every week I create a horrible poem about some different place in Colorado. I love Colorado, but the poems are disgusting. And we have, as you said, some amazing guests. It's very sad that literally yesterday, Linda Lavin, the fine actress, passed. She was on the show a few years ago, so we're mourning her, if you will, and lots of guests who are still alive, from Hal Linden and Bernie Capel, who have been on the program, if you know your TV, to who else? Some people who've got good longevity and are still with us, which is a wonderful thing.
Yeah, well, Hal and Bernie were in that the Moses thing, that Moses play.
But yeah, we try, and we've had famous people. We also have just people that I've always been curious about, and personal heroes. Like when I was growing up, I used to listen to a lot of folk music. So having Tom Paxton on the program was major, and Judy Collins has been on the show. And then the folks we lost, people like Melanie and Oscar Brandt. So to have spoken to these people and to have the archives available to everyone of like, yes, we had them on, and they're gone now, but they live in our little circle of the neighborhood. That's important to me, you know?
Are you going to air the Linda Lavin one in tribute to her? I was so upset to find out she died. God, she kept me going through COVID because she and Billy Stritch would put on these concerts in the afternoon, and I never missed them. They were wonderful.
Well, we put her interview on our Facebook page. If you go to the Facebook page of Dave's Gone By, where we are live on Saturday mornings, when someone passes away, first thing that we do is we repost their interview on the program. And of course, the interviews are always in the archives for free, available to everyone. So you can see Linda Lavin. You can hear Theodore Bickel's interview on the program, Charlotte Ray and Carol Channing, and some fairly major people that we've had over the years.
And you also have Rabbi Saul Solomon makes an appearance.
The one, the only Jewish Rabbi Saul Solomon.
The rude rabbi, the rudest rabbi in town.
Yes, the founder and spiritual leader of Temple Sons of Bitches in Great Neck, New York. Rabbi Saul does most of our interviews, actually, and he occasionally does these rabbinical reflections, these mini sermons of his take on modern life, on Judaism, on culture, most of them fairly angry, but also comical. And it's basically taking a page from his stage show, Shalom Dammit, an evening with Rabbi Saul Solomon, that played, you were talking about off Broadway, at the Richmond Shepherd Theater and at the Roy Arias Theater a few years back. So yeah, we love to, I'm looking for any excuse to bring Rabbi Saul back to the stages in New York, but at least you can watch him and hear him on davesgoneby.com.
And he must be having a field day with Hanukkah happening on Christmas and New Year's. We decided to call it Happy New Year Ka.
Yeah, well, but you're leaving out Kwanzaa, so it's going to be Happy New Year Kwanzaa, and then let's not forget Festivus. So it's New Year Kwanzaa. Might as well throw Tu B'Shvat in there as well.
Why not? And also Lag BaOmer. Get in all the minor holidays that nobody cares about or knows about.
Well, some Jewish people know about them, but I don't.
Well, they only know about it through the food. If you say, oh, it's the one where you eat pomegranates. Oh, that's the holiday. Lag BaOmer. You eat pomegranates.
Well, I thought it was Kidney Stone Day. No, you're right, of course. Oh, but I think we're getting the signal that we're oh dear, are we? Do we have time, or do I need to finish up and just remind everybody, davesgoneby.com for all your Dave needs. And you have Dave needs you don't even know about. You will.
Yes, do not miss Days Gone By. Hello, here I am still in rehab, but I have two very special guests with me. Basil Rodericks, the director, and Cheri Wicks, artistic director of American Bard Theater Company, and they're going to talk about Robin Rice's play Pecking Orders that's going to be at 5090 59th Street. So tell us all about American Bard Theater, how you found the play, what's it about, all that good stuff. I can't wait to hear about it.
Well, thank you so much for having us. So I'm actually the co-producing artistic director, and Erin Gilbreth is my other co-producing artistic director, and I couldn't do it without her. We are kind of the yin and yang of American Bard Theater Company. We started the theater company with 12 other artists in June of 2009. And actually, Basil was one of the founding members. And we had all met in Shakespeare classes taught by John Basil at the American Globe Theater. And we all wanted more opportunities, perhaps, to perform. So we formed this little company. And this many years later, here we are all back together again. And we are thrilled to have Basil directing for us, but he's also worked as our photographer for so many of our shows. He's a wonderful photographer. So that's us, American Bard, kind of in a quick little nutshell.
Yeah, I will say that I am thrilled to be directing this. I had a kind of a long career at American Globe Theater, which is where we met. And as Cheri said, it was kind of the foundation from which they created American Bard. And so I was there for 11 years as an actor, and then I kind of took up photography under that, became a theatrical photographer while continuing acting. And then recently, so 2 years ago, was it, Cheri, that we, they had their Cornerstone reading series, and they had a series of plays of which Cheri can tell you about the nuts and bolts of how all of that worked. But out of that process, in which I was a reader, we found Pecking Order, which I completely fell in love with.
We did hold in 2022, kind of coming out of the pandemic with something to do, we held a playwriting contest and we had over 200 submissions. Actually, we actually cut it off at 200 submissions. And Robin Rice's play, Pecking Order, was one of the top 3 that we then included in our yearly Cornerstone reading series, which is an incubator for American Bard Theater Company. And Basil directed the staged reading for us. It had wonderful reception. And then we turned the play into Val Day at 59 59th Street, and she loved it and really pitched us to do it. So Robin Rice said yes, Basil said yes, we said yes, so here we were. And then we spent this past summer workshopping the play. So Robin gets a lot of credit for being a very receptive and open playwright. We had 5 workshops, and she rewrote and rewrote and rewrote. And I'll let Basil tell you a little bit about leading those workshops and what came out of it and what brought Pecking Order to where it is today.
For me, looking at it as a director and just hearing it so much, and now being what I'm not a native New Yorker, but I've been here for more years than I'd like to say. To me, it's a total love letter to New York, wrapped up in a play. And the story follows Albert Jones, who is a Bronx-based doorman at a fancy Manhattan high-rise. And he's been there forever. And he's basically the heart and soul of the building. He is beloved. But at the time that we meet him, things are very stressful. First of all, there is Tony, who is a cocky new doorman who thinks he can take Albert's job. He's angling and gunning for Albert's job. And then there's this wild drama where there are red-tailed hawks, a pair of them, who have built a massive 300-pound nest above the building's entrance. So the residents are completely panicked about this. Some of them want them gone. The others want them to be protected. And Albert, our beloved Albert, gets dragged in the middle of this to take sides. Albert is able to cope with all of this because he's a huge bird nerd, or he's a birder. And his actual dream outside of being this beloved doorman is to be a worker at the Wild Bird Rescue. And what really eats at him is that he can't leave this doorman job to become a worker and work with these wild birds at Wild Bird Rescue, because his chief, the thing that moves his life, what's really happening is that he has the sick sister in the Bronx who he's very much responsible for as the sole caretaker. So all of these things are tugging at him. He's got like the residents of the building dragging him into this brouhaha about these birds. He's got this new doorman who's trying to push him out of a job, and he's supporting his sister. And at the same time, there's this migration of birds over New York City. And in a magical moment, one of the birds hits the building. And in this drop down, she becomes somehow magically a woman. And we see that she is becoming the woman of his dreams. So for the first time in his life, and through all of this stress, Albert, has a chance at love. And so we follow him through this journey of love and of loss and of self-discovery in what I think of as a true love letter to New York.
Oh, it sounds wonderful. I can't
Yeah,
wait
I
to see it.
really I love it. And Cheri had mentioned that Robin Wright was it is in the form that it is because she was so open to workshopping the play. And a lot of playwrights don't want you touching their work.
Changing a word.
Yeah, changing
They've
the
written
word.
it.
But number one, American Bard was very supportive of my idea to workshop the play. And when I say workshop the play, I'll tell you exactly what I mean. Robin is a woman of means and a white lady who has written very specific African-American characters at the center of this drama, who are even more specifically of Dominican descent, located in the Bronx. Serendipitously, right after I had workshopped the play, I had gotten a job in the Bronx teaching photography for 2 years, and I thought, yeah, we've got to make this just much more authentic to the way that a brother and sister would speak in the Bronx, because the beauty of it, and I'm of the belief that anyone can write about anything, but you have to become informed. So the human motivations were always there. The relationship between a brother and sister and the beauty of that, they were always there. It just needed to be finessed in that true Dominican style, that incredible Dominican style. And so that's what some of the workshops this summer were about.
Did you think because you're a photographer, you have an eye, you have a good eye, does that help in making you a really good director?
It absolutely gives you a great eye for a number of things. And I don't want to get too much in the weeds about acting and stuff, but mainly there are many things. But in terms of working with actors, it's a photograph can always capture energy going out and into the audience and where the eyes are. And in the end of the day, people are paying money. They are buying tickets because they want to see your face. They want to see your eyes. So there's a lot of stage technique in making sure that that happens and that people aren't looking down, that they're not upstaging themselves, that being a photographer helps with. It also helps with the visual and the balance of the stage. And a lot of times in my job, it's not just photographing. A lot of the work is post-shooting. There's a lot of correction of so lighting and making the stage beautiful that has to happen. And so I'm very aware of working with people to create as beautiful a stage as we can, which American Bard is very, very hands-on about that as well too.
And it's and people get to see it January 29th till February what?
15th.
15th at 59 East 59th Street.
Yes,
right.
The 15th. I don't think it's the cat out of the bag. We have many nights that are sold out.
They're sold out.
It's sold out. So please come. It is so much fun.
Both the matinees have sold out, and several of the evenings have sold out. It's a 7:30 curtain. It's a 90-minute no intermission show. But even if a show is sold out, I will say it is always worth checking with 59 E59 box office, because sometimes people turn tickets back in. They can't make the show. There's last minute possibilities, but we are thrilled to be working at 59 E59. They are so supportive and really help the process. And we're so excited about this play. We love this play.
Yeah, can I also say one other thing about the play, and just in terms of it being so different, because there are a lot of plays about New Yorkers and about wealthy New Yorkers where they're centered, because that's so interesting to us and so titillating. But it's very interesting to me that Robin was able to create a play in which these working class New Yorkers are centered in the play, and then around them is the kind of the glitz and the glamour that is in support of their story. And that is so really, really unusual, very, very difficult to find. And the fact that she's done it and it's done so seamlessly is another one of the things that really excites me about the play, because and I think that that is something that one of the reasons that also American Bard has kind of championed the play, because as long as I've been working with American Bard, they've been doing stories that have been integrated. And I look at this in terms of there are kind of various ways that people of color can be integrated into the story. One is to have a play where you do creative casting. That requires a lot of adaptation on the actor's part. And then to me, a higher level of that is, oh, we've written a character for a person of color, and it's in support of a white story, of a non, of this other, of a white story, for lack of for an unpoetic way of saying it. But this for me kind of hits the highest level of integration in that it is, there are fully realized people of color in a demographic that truly represents New York. We have the New York, we just have New Yorkers all over, all throughout the demographics of this. Like we've got the New Yorker influencer, and we've got the New York bada bing doorman, and we've got the really like the beautiful Latina woman in the Bronx, and we've got her hardworking brother in Albert, our lead. And who else do we have? We have
Bootsy. She's a former
yes,
Broadway star
we've got
trying to get
Bootsy,
back into a
exactly.
show.
And so it's just a great slice of New York. And all of that frames this very, very real story between these people of color. And so that's another reason why I love it. And I thought that it was really important that this play get done.
Okay, even though I'm stuck in here, right, rehab, and I haven't seen a show in a month, thank you, 54 Below, for your live streaming services. Because of that, I was able to see Melissa Errico doing "'Twas the Night After Christmas, a Winter Party" with Billy Stritch. And it was so wonderful. She comes out in her pajamas and she combines show tunes and standards and Christmas and winter songs that were heavily leaning towards Sondheim and Streisand. And she regaled us with stories of her family traditions, how Sondheim wrote a special Christmas verse to "I Remember from Evening Primrose" for Barbra Streisand, and utilizing Sondheim tunes to parody how dark a Sondheim Christmas song might sound. It was a fabulous evening. I was transported to 54 Below, and I felt wonderful to be out in the world again. Anyway, next show, hopefully, since I'll be out of here and we can actually bring a lot more reviews, we will be doing that on January 25th. So have a wonderful January, and may all things go well with you.